Hello and welcome to today's discussion with Cristal Montan Baylor, humanitarian and international coordinator of Hope for Venezuelan Refugees Project. Cristal is being recognized by the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston as our 2021 Global Leader of Influence. I'm Sandia Bayou, Chief Development Officer here at the Council. It is our hope that you and your families are staying safe and healthy. Cristal, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, Sandia. It is a pleasure to be here with you and with all the members of the Council and your audience. Thank you.
Sure. World Affairs Council of Greater Houston is dedicated to honoring individuals like Cristal who have contributed to the international spirit of our city. In celebration, the Council annually hosts an international recognition luncheon to highlight their achievements. I hope that all of you watching will join us on October 14th. You can find more details as well as register about this event on the Council's programming website at wachouston.org. Cristal, you are a humanitarian and philanthropist who has experienced many things such as diplomacy and have worked in some of the world's most controversial countries. You previously worked as the executive director of Hashu Foundation USA, headquartered in Pakistan. There, your work supported the implementation of various economic, educational, and emergency relief projects that positively impacted vulnerable communities in the region. As a former Miss Venezuela, you are committed to defending the human, political, and civil rights of the Venezuelan people. Currently, as I mentioned, you are the international coordinator of Hope for Venezuelan Refugees Project. The project aims to combat food insecurity and hunger that affects thousands of Venezuelan refugees that have crossed the border due to the largest forced migration crisis caused by dictatorship and corruption. Cristal, your work as a pro-democracy activist has been highlighted by George W. Bush Presidential Center. You have also been recognized by the Dallas Committee on Foreign Relations, Powerful Women International, and Texas Executive Women. With this, I'm going to go ahead and turn to the project that you are so passionate about and visit on questions that we have would like to explore a little bit more, and of course also where participation of our students had been put forward. Let me start. The Help for Venezuelan Refugees project was first conceived in 2018. Personally, what factors were at play that led you to decide to undertake this mission?
Well, Sandia, it breaks my heart to witness how my country has changed from the most stable democracy in Latin America, with the second largest state-owned oil company, PDVSA, to a failed state. Today, Venezuela is suffering its worst political and economic crisis in history caused by the Nicolás Maduro illegitimate narco regime. Poverty in Venezuela is an epidemic, since 96% of Venezuelans live in poverty and misery, a dramatic increase from the 48% registered in 2014. The shortage and high cost of food and medicines, lack of essential services like water, electricity, propane gas, collapse of the hospital system, lack of employment, increasing crime, and rampant corruption. Imagine living in a country with a monthly salary of $3.50, who was just raised this year on May the 1st by 300% by the Nicolás regime. $3.50 per month is only enough to buy a kilogram of cheese and a liter of milk, or a carton of eggs and a liter of milk for a complete family. This condition has forced 1 in 7 Venezuelans to flee to neighboring countries in dangerous and very risky conditions, as you can see them on the screen, without money, identification documents, destination or plans, only with the desire to escape from a situation that offers them nothing but hunger and misery. This humanitarian crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic has worsened the growing food insecurity and hunger affecting thousands of Venezuelan refugees and workers and vulnerable communities in Colombia and the region. The humanitarian crisis, as you can see on the video, has caused people to walk through the Cucuta-Pamplona humanitarian route. I just want you to imagine this scenario. Imagine a mother endangered by exhaustion and hunger, a child crying, pulling what is left of her worn-out shoe as the mother begins to collapse under the weight of her bags as she attempts once again to console the inconsolable. Her pangs of hunger have transmuted from pain and fear to an excruciating hopelessness that presses to the bleeding blisters of her every single step. According to the Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which establishes that access to food as a fundamental human right, and the access to food continues to be a local priority in the Venezuelan and Colombian humanitarian crisis. In order to help alleviate this condition, the Rotary Club of Houston, which I'm a member, I belong to, the Rotary Club of Cucuta and Rise Against Hunger formed a partnership and initiated the Hope for Venezuelan Refugee Project, an emergency short-term response to the food insecurity and hunger affecting thousands of Venezuelan refugees, migrants, workers, and Colombian returnees on that humanitarian route, leaving the border city between Venezuela and Colombia, the name is Cucuta, through the route that goes to the city of Pamplona. All of these people are searching for a better life. They are literally in survival mode. In August 2018, as you mentioned, I traveled to Colombia to make an in situ assessment and evaluation of the refugee crisis on the ground, literally at the border city of Cucuta. During my trip, I met with local and international organizations, identified logistic partners, met with coordinators and volunteers who committed to work with us during the implementation of the project. But let me tell you, Sandhya, I never imagined that my years of humanitarian work in Pakistan will prepare me to help our Venezuelan refugees in Colombia.
Unbelievable. You mentioned the pictures in the background. They were actually taken by some of your volunteers?
Yes, all the pictures in the background are taken from the volunteers that actually help in all the different shelters. In these pictures, we're seeing 8 different shelters. And all the pictures are taken by the volunteers who actually receive the donations of food, prepare, cook, and distribute, and maintain an inventory, and work very closely to our manager on the ground. As you can see also, these are no refugee camps, as we probably seen in other countries, like I saw in Pakistan with the Afghani refugee camps. This is civic society taking action to help their Venezuelan neighbors. Most of the people who are helping the Venezuelans some of them are organic registered organizations, most of them are very inorganic. They are doing an extraordinary job. I cannot even imagine what could be of this region and the refugees without their help. Many of them has opened their own homes to cook and host before the pandemic. A lot of the refugees going by, especially women and children. So their work has been incredible. Here you're seeing volunteers registering the workers, the refugees. That's the only way that we can keep track of who they are. We can do an evaluation on the type of migration that we are having, whether they are children, women, men, and the different ages, where they're coming from, where they're going. And also we calculate in an efficient manner the amount of meals that are being distributed to this refugee population. So you can see the volunteers preparing some of the meals in the screen as we go through. We distributed thousands and thousands of face masks.
Yeah. If you will, please take a moment to synthesize the Venezuelan migration crisis. How does the Hope for Venezuela Refugee Project aim to combat the hunger facing so many migrants that you just spoke about?
Sure. Yes, the Venezuelan exodus, which is important to bring, and thank you for the opportunity to do it, bring it and create a little bit of awareness, represents the biggest refugee crisis in the history of Latin America, the Western Hemisphere, and the Caribbean, all our continent all together. And it also represents the largest forced migration crisis caused by dictatorship and corruption in the world. Second only, of course, to the Syrian crisis, which has suffered from war for more than 8 years. Since 2015, almost 5.7 million Venezuelans have fled our country, seeking safety for a better life for themselves and their families. 4.6 of them are pursuing refugees status in countries across the region like Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, the Caribbean area, Central America, and Mexico. And many of them are coming also to the United States. Colombia continues to be the host of the largest number of refugees and migrants from Venezuela, with an estimated of approximately 1.8 million of refugees and migrants. In addition to that, Colombia is hosting 845,000 Colombian binational returnees. Returnees are those Colombians that used to live in Venezuela and were literally expelled by the Nicolás Maduro regime a few years ago. And they were forced to leave Venezuela, many of them with any ties to Colombia or any other country. The migration flow of Venezuelan to Colombia is unprecedented in the region. Every day, hundreds of Venezuelan walkers, caminantes, cross the Venezuelan-Colombian border through illegal and clandestine trails called trochas, despite the regulations imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. These improvised crossing trails have become the only access for Venezuelans who travel on foot between the two countries. The walkers, caminantes, as they are known, are women, men, and children that you see on the pictures traveling on foot to escape the violence, lack of food, medicine, essential services, poverty, and misery brought by the Nicolás Maduro regime. Most of them are hungry and very poor, in desperate need of assistance. Victimization and exploitation are rampant in the border regions. Paramilitary groups are actively recruiting Venezuelan youth and young adults. At the same time, our groups force undocumented immigrants to work in coke fields and illegal mining, while many Venezuelan women and children are forced into sex work. Very sad situation.
Sure.
Additionally, workers are exposed to accidents and suffer from hypothermia and dehydration as they walk from city to city and to neighboring countries through regions that oscillate between the unbearable heat to the low temperatures of the Andean region of the Paramo of Berlin, located at 3,146 feet above sea level while traveling very dangerous road. It is heartbreaking to hear the same story from most of the refugees. They say we're hungry and we can no longer survive in a country where food is not available or it is too expensive to pay.
Yeah.
Therefore, with no money, no documents, no place to go, we pack our bags and our backpacks and were forced to live in despair, leaving behind our families and everything we work for. Like this, children, women, and men arrive daily at the food distribution centers and shelters that you see in front of you after walking innumerable hours. Many of them have walked for days, dragging themselves and their belongings for days. The hungry children cry as their parents unload their heavy bags of what is left of their suitcases they have hauled along the very rough roads. Distribution to the existing distribution centers and shelters where the volunteers are working to attend these refugees began in January 2019. So let me go back a little bit. In December 2018, containers filled with 46 tons of Rice Against Hunger fortified meals arrived in the port of Cartagena, and our distribution to food distribution centers and shelters began in 2019. We procure locally almost 215,000 pounds of locally produced items in order to stimulate the local economy, add local seasoning and flavor to increase the caloric value of the fortified meals. And hopefully, we expect that will help decrease the xenophobia towards the migrants. Today, our volunteers have distributed more than 918,000 meals to Venezuelan refugees, migrants, and caminantes in Colombia. When COVID-19 pandemic emerged in Colombia, we expanded our response to include personal protective equipment, biosecurity suits for the volunteers, portable hand wash unit stations, with soap for the workers so they could wash their hands and disinfect before they receive their meals, thousands of washable face masks, gloves, infrared thermometers, and disinfectant and cleaning products were distributed to all the locations as part of our efforts to help prevent the spread of the COVID-19 on that humanitarian route. And all these thanks to generous donation of and partnership with Rice Against Hunger. The volunteers continue to cook even during COVID-19 and distribute thousands of rations of hot meals. In this case, as you can see, they are packed in disposable boxes that the volunteers can carry with them as they are in transit, as they, not the volunteers, but the caminantes, because the shelters could not host all these volunteers like they did pre-COVID. According to the report published by Rice Against Hunger on June 21st this year, 2021, more than 578,000 refugees and migrants have benefited from our food donations. Our project provides refugees with hope and the fundamental human right of access to food, and help promotes peace also, because when people no longer need to fight for food, peace will reign.
And again, you're doing so much, and we can spend learning more about the project and all the accomplishments and various aspects. As we have a little bit of a limited time today, I said, well, definitely let's talk more. Maybe one of upcoming programs would love to, because I'm sure Houstonians would like to learn more. I want to ask you, what can be done perhaps here in Houston as the global city that we are to, foster conversation? Is something that, what can your guidance be that here Houstonians can help on this huge, like I said, the largest humanitarian crisis?
Sure. This type of programs, and I again appreciate the Houston World Affairs Council for helping create awareness. And actually you are educating our community and the international community on a crisis that is considered invisible, even though it is going to reach at the end of the year, as projected by the United Nations, will be the largest refugee crisis in the world. Not only it is the most invisible, but it's also the most underfunded by international organizations and countries. So I will encourage organizations in Houston to host conversations like this, where we can create awareness of the situation of the refugee crisis, because after all, a lot of the Venezuelans are coming to Houston. And there is a very tight relationship between our country, Venezuela, and the city of Houston. And it has been for years because of the oil relationship. So I believe that probably inviting other organizations to help create awareness and educate our community. Also, there is something important, Sandhya, since you asked, our local media should perhaps consider adding an international segment to the news, so the community, as Houstonians, could be more informed of international affairs. I think that will tremendously create awareness not only on the crisis, but also we are a host city, And as host city, we have the responsibility to welcome refugees from other countries. And it will help people know why they are refugees. What led a rich country like Venezuela to have the second largest migration and forced displacement of people at this point.
Yeah, that is really a great suggestion. Like I said, we really, coming from Latvia myself, I lack that connection to international news and how news are perceived and seen in other parts of the world. And I think probably given our global footprint here and being that we are one of the diverse, or somebody say the most diverse city, I think that lack for content or appetite for information, I'm confident it's definitely here. So let's join the forces and see how.
Well, just imagine a World Affairs Council clip on the local news.
Yeah,
Informing of international affairs will be great.
absolutely. Again, you're always so engaged and engaging. And one kind of last question is, what is something that keeps you hopeful for success in the work that you are doing now?
Well, to tell you the truth, when I see volunteers serving a nutritious meal or a bowl of soup to men, women, boys, girls, refugees that are exhausted, and then is during that first heartwarming sip of bite that I can catch a glimpse of the smiles emerging slowly and steadily from the corners of your quenched lips. That is hope. That's what keeps me going. For the last 3 years, the Hope for Venezuelan Refugees have been on the ground responding to the emergency crisis caused by the Venezuelan humanitarian crisis and has been worsened by COVID-19 pandemic. We have served hundreds of thousands of meals and helped alleviate hunger of so many Venezuelan refugees. But it's literally the courage and determination of the refugees walking, searching for a better life for themselves and their families. It's the passion, dedication, and compassion of the volunteers to care for this vulnerable population. And it is the commitment of our donors like Right Against Hunger and Rotary Partners, despite all the risks that we have to face during all this process. All of this, summary of all of this, give me the strength to keep me hopeful, to continue working on the humanitarian crisis, to respond to this, because in reality it's a tragic, it's a catastrophe, it's very sad. I try to look for what keeps me in. And to tell you the truth, I believe our volunteers are angels dressed like humans. Without them, none of what you see going on the ground in these very humble settings, attending and feeding hundreds of thousands of hungry refugees could happen.
Very, very true. Again, thank you for your time today. As I said, we definitely need to talk more. Would love to see how we can spread the word, if that's the right way to say it, and get others more educated, informed, and also how the ways that they can engage with you and support and volunteer even that too. Congratulations, Cristal, one more time on your so deserving award. We look forward to seeing you on October 14th. For our participants, again, this recording will be posted on our website and our YouTube channel. Would love for you to revisit such a rich content that Cristal shared with us. Again, that's on our website, wachouston.org. Cristal, any closing remarks?
Thank you, Sandia, for the opportunity again to share what's happening in my country with the world. Thank you to your team, and I'm very excited about this great recognition that I will be receiving by the World Affairs Council. So thank you for your consideration, and thank you for following my work for so many years, Sandia.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
With that, we wish everybody a wonderful day ahead. And again, we'll see you on October 14th. Thank you.